Welcome to Motivational Mondays. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today we're going to be discussing connecting the dots. But before we start, you know the drill. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you could get future content like this. Not only do you help the channel, but you also add value to other people by sharing this with them. And I'm sure that this is something that people will not be disappointed that you shared. So connecting the dots. So about 15 to 20 years ago, I saw a video with Steve Jobs, who was the founder of Apple computers. Now, if you have lived through that transformation, okay, especially in the United States, having lived through it myself between 1980 to 2000, there was this massive transformation going into PC, personal computers. Up until that time, they had computers, but not personal computers. And it was a laughable idea that anybody would want to have anything to do with a computer being at home. Can you imagine that, right? We have handhelds today, and that transformation actually started with PCs coming into our homes. Now, up until that time period, up until Apple came out with the first Macintosh, things were really just very bulky. Computers were very non-efficient. They were very alienating. They were very computer-like, okay? So if you weren't a computer guy, you definitely didn't touch it, okay? And one of the things that Steve Jobs discusses in this commencement speech that he gives to the graduating class of university is that he discusses that before he found Apple, he was in university and he took a bunch of courses that he had to choose from. And he saw calligraphy and he was just intrigued by it, and he decided to take a calligraphy class. Little did he know that years later, that calligraphy class would give him the competitive advantage in the marketplace by producing a product that was sexy and unique for its time period, okay, that gave him the competitive edge. And specifically, those of you who are familiar with word processors, okay, now that's a really big term, but before word processors, people used to type things on a typewriter, right? Remember those things? And I remember even having those things with a ribbon, and you had to really push hard because you actually lifted the iron beam that would then, produce that letter on that piece of paper. And if you made a mistake, you would have to white it out. It was disaster, okay? So the computers came in and gave us a word processing that we could type it out on the computer and make changes to it and delete it and add words to it and make all kind of additions. And it was revolutionary, okay? Especially from someone who used to take forever to type those letters out using those typewriters. Oh, it was disaster. I mean, today I'm sure those typewriters are a novelty and you could probably sell them for a nice amount of money just because it's a classic. But at that time period, the word processing coming into the digital age of that time period was just revolutionary. So what did Steve Jobs do that was competitive relative to everybody else? He added calligraphy. He added different type of fonts that you could use on your word processing and make it interesting, make it visibly nice. And up until that point, it wasn't. It was bulky letters. It was very computer-like and very alienating. And that gave him the competitive edge. And he mentions this in his commencement speech, that you never know what you're going to do in life that's going to be able for you to connect the dots. And I think all of us in our lives could relate to that. Now, there have been tremendous transitions in my life. The original focus of what I wanted to go into in business is completely different than when I first started out. But that was about finding myself. I needed to find myself. I needed to find that thing that would get me going. And trading the financial markets was that thing. But at the same time, as I made that transition into it, because I was an import-export company. I worked for a Japanese import-export company in different type of things. And then I looked into the financial industry. I started trading myself on the side, and I found it so much more exhilarating, so much more interesting. And I made that transition. But before I made that transition, I also did a stint when I was an assistant teacher. And I enjoyed it so much because it was the time period in my life that I was accumulating knowledge, but I was always also feeling fulfilled by sharing and giving that knowledge to other people. And that gave me a purpose. And the combination of the two kind of transformed me to who I am today. And I remember leaving that institution where I was teaching and I mentioned to the secretary, so she said, what are you going to do now? Like, you left that industry, you left this industry. What could you possibly do? And I remember it came instinctively. And I said, you're assuming that I don't have transferable skills. And when you're working in one industry, you accumulate certain skills. Now, you could go into something else and accumulate skills there and skills there and skills there. And sometimes you're able to string those experiences along to give you who you are today. And that's what I did. I used those transferable skills to just add on, add on, add on. But because in each industry, you have certain skills that you accumulate that is indigenous, that is only through that industry that you accumulate through, and then you're able to get to who you are today. So you're going to always be a hero. Your future hero is you now, and what you accumulate in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and what you're looking to accumulate in the next 5-10 years. Lots of people just misfocus themselves about, oh, I just want to make money. Yeah, money is the outcome, but how are you going to get there? What are going to be the skills that you're going to get there? Now, there are many options in life. You don't have to just get it through trading the financial markets. There's almost everything is a possibility, and almost everything is something that you can accumulate wealth through. The question is what you're going to do and how you're going to write your story through the chapters of your life. So this was my Motivational Mondays for today. We'll see you here next week. Thank you for joining me.